So, impossible, with a question mark, and Josh kept emphasizing that question mark. This is where I grew up, Kalapa in Queensland, Australia. I didn't wear shoes to school for the first 7 or 8 years of my school years. And my story tonight is a little bit different, and that's what I love what Mia and Pierre said, that we all have different stories to share, and everyone here has a story to share. And my story is about sharing with you that part of impossible that I think has brought me to where I am 64 years after being born here in Kalapa to two wonderful people, Verlie May and William Ray. My dad is from German descent. His father was sent out from Germany. There was 8 children, and the parents couldn't look after them, so they sent a child to every part of the world. And I was fortunate enough that my grandfather landed in Australia, and he took on what was called a brigalow block back then. And he was, it was a piece of land that no one else wanted. So my granddad said, here's an opportunity for me. And many people would have said, why would you want to work through that scrub? What can you possibly want to do? But Granddad saw something in the future. And now that brigalow block is almost bigger than the size of Malta. And this piece of land is where I was born. And it's the beginning of my story. So, I've spoken a lot as well, and that word impossible comes up so often. And people use these quotes about, nothing is impossible. And this Audrey Hepburn quote comes up, nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. And I just wanted to say, let's not use that quote when we talk about impossible. I see impossible as, if we first of all think about it, where the Webster definition, if we think about not possible, unable to be, exist or happen, unable to be done, performed or affected, an impossible assignment, incapable of being true, it's a rumor, not to be done, endured with any degree of reason or propriety, an impossible situation, utterly impractical, an impossible plan, hopelessly unsuitable, difficult or objectionable. This is what impossible means, if you look in the dictionary. I've got this photo here because this is a photo of the sunset at the Bastion Pool, where I am now general manager of. And when I first started out in hospitality, many years ago, and I was a casual waitress to start with, because Australians all want to travel and you need to earn a bit of extra money to go overseas. And it got into my blood. And someone said to me, but Robyn, you say, you need to earn more than being in the hospitality industry. No, this is something that I really want to do. I owned my own restaurant by the time I was 21. I worked 3 jobs, like Pierre was saying. If you really want something, you make it happen. And then I went to work with a big brand called ITT Sheraton, which became Starwood Hotels. And I worked for a gentleman, and he said, Robyn, you have to understand that you are female, and you are going to have kids, and really there's no future for you in this industry. And as Brian knows, saying that I can't do anything is like red rag to a bull. So I said, no, I am going to prove you wrong. And I have this photograph here because I would never have expected that after all these years, I would be the general manager of such an iconic property, which I'm very, very proud to be. And it happened by circumstance. I never thought that at 60 I'd be going back into being a general manager. But COVID brought many things to all of us. And whilst it wasn't planned, it certainly is something that I'm very proud to say that I'm doing right now. So, for me, impossible is not a statement. it's a challenge. I was in charge of Six Sigma and innovation for 240 hotels at one stage. And I had a mentor there who, he said to me, Robyn, because it was, at times it was tough thinking about this, we did this blue ocean strategy. And it was about really looking at how we could take things out of the red ocean where everyone was competing and create these very big new opportunities for the hotels or for the brand. And it was tough, and at times it was like, why am I doing this? And he would say, okay, Robyn, are you feeling comfortable? And I'm like, yeah. Well, we're not doing your job, because if we want to change, it's about getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So we have to really move it up a notch and think about other things that we can do to really create these new blue oceans of opportunity for our hotels. So, when you think about, people talk about their bucket list. Do you have your impossible list? Those things that maybe you dream about, but you say to yourself, it's impossible. I'm going to share a story with you that actually, I and Brian, we were sort of part of really knowing and learning what really does stop us from doing so many things. As I said, I was went to school, my mum, I used to say, I'm going to be an air hostess. And my mum used to say, Robyn, don't say things like that, because people think you're arrogant having dreams and thinking you're going to do something like that. So I was sort of programmed to not talk about my dreams, because it was it wasn't good for a girl to be thinking about that. There was other things that people felt that I should be doing. And dreaming what I was going to be doing wasn't one of those. So my story is, we moved from, Brian and I met. I was in Australia, he was in New York. 6 months later, we were living in Brussels. That's another story. That's not part of this story. But that's quite a juicy story too. But we'll leave that for another day. But what happened was that I had a situation where I needed to have an operation, and we thought that was my sinus, and it wasn't going to be a very difficult situation. And at that stage, we had Christopher and Sebastian, who had come with me from Australia, and Chris was around 8, and I think James was 3. And I was general manager. I was a big fish in a small pond in Australia, and come over to Europe, and I was going to do all these great things. And I had this operation which was on my sinuses. And it turned out that it was quite a bit more significant, and so they were operating for quite a long time. And what happened was, when I woke up, I had lost my memory. And we later found out that I went into anaphylactic shock, my brain did, because I had an allergy to one of the chemicals that they'd used in the anesthetic. But I didn't know that at the time, and nor did Brian. And so there's other things that went on when I woke up. But the big thing was that I did not know who I was. I did not know my children. I didn't know Brian. And so at 40 years old, I woke up literally with a blank page. And what I wanted to share with you, which relates to impossible, is I had lived 40 years, for example, wanting to write a book. But I'd been told, why would you want to write a book? And so that became my truth, my reality of what I couldn't do. So as the months progressed, and I was very fortunate, and for those of you who know Brian, know he's very much a glass half full sort of guy. So the doctor said, look, you might get your memory back, you may not. It depends on what impact the chemical has had on your brain. It's called global amnesia. And so, here I was, having traveled the world, working for this big company. Brian was having to show me things all over again. And I always remember the first time we went to the airport, and Brian is, now this is a very important document called the passport, and he's taking me through this. Now I can remember it, but, it must have been scary for Brian. And people say to me, it must have been so scary for you, but it was more scary for Brian and the children and my family that I didn't know them. So the doctor said, you may not get your memory back. And so Brian said, well, let's create new memories. And so we went forward. We have some funny moments. I mean, that was at the time of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, and I'm lying in the bed, and I'm not knowing my name and all this sort of stuff. And Brian said, well, your name's Monica, and my name is Bill. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, oh, fuck, you really don't have your memory. Like, it didn't mean a thing to me. So, no, it was a blank page. I would remember, I know what to talk, but I went back to using very Australian terms, and it was an amazing thing. And so, there was things like, I like to cook, but I don't like to go all out for every dinner. So after a while of my sister being with me and the guys at home, it had to be that we had to get back to life. And so my sister went back to Australia, Brian went to work, the kids went to, the first day that I took the kids to the bus at the school, to go to school, it was only like from here to there away, but I got lost, didn't I, Brian? Because I had no way. And so here's me walking around the neighborhood that I knew so well, but not knowing where I was. There was another situation with, I like to cook. And so they went to work, and I saw all these cookbooks, and I thought, oh, well, I must be a very good, I like to cook and take these things. So I put them out, and the guys came home, and I had cooked 3 courses, from the recipe, and I put out the nice table and everything. And Brian and the boys are sitting there, and I could see James and Chris looking at each other and like, what is she doing? And after I got my memory back, they say, we wish you'd get your memory, lose your memory again, and you make dessert and all of these things, nice things for us instead of barbecue. But there's lots of jokes about when Robyn lost her memory. But it was a learning for me, and one that I feel grateful actually for now, because the things that you see are so much brighter when there's nothing there telling you can't do it. I had just learned to be a 6 Sigma black belt before losing my memory, which takes a long time and lots of reading and studying, and I lost all of it. But then, when I went to relearn, people told me how quickly I learned back, because after 40 years studying and learning statistics and correlations and stuff, it took me ages. When I was going back over the books with nothing there telling me what should be right and what should be wrong, I learnt so much quicker. I learnt that people can be very unaccepting of difference and difficult situations. There were people that I thought I was friends with, but I haven't spoken to since then, because they thought I had something against them, that I didn't recognize them. There were people when Brian took me back to the office, because we both worked in the same company, but you must remember me, I'm your boss. No, I don't remember you. And there was a lot of funny situations, but I learned firsthand that we make much of the impossible in our minds, and we do that for our children as well. We tell them what they can and can't do. We create situations where, we don't allow them to dream and be the best they can be. So I then really got very interested in the power of our thinking and the power of our mind. And just to what you both were saying, how, you really, if you hadn't have really sort of made that big decision and made a committed decision, it wouldn't have happened. It was all about your thinking. You went through life empowered by your mother and your grandma. It was in your mind of what you could do and what you couldn't do. And so often, I've done some work with people that are not so fortunate in how they're being treated by others, how we can really be very, very cruel to people in taking away their potential of making that impossible possible for them. So I am a living, breathing example of learning how our thoughts really can stop us and how we allow them to stop us. And when we remove that, take that week off and just take away the emails and the phone and look at life from a blank page, how it can really make a difference. Because I lived and breathed life from a blank page. And we did so much, and it was with such fresh spirit, that we lived through that summer. And I found myself sitting and writing and wanting to write. I didn't know why, but it was because I had had that dream and I'd always been told I couldn't do it. But all of a sudden there was nothing there telling me what I could or couldn't do. And I wrote this story about to build my lifetime. It was about rebuilding my memories, and it was called To Build a Lifetime, because we had to rebuild my life back again. And yes, when Joss said the theme for tonight, I just wanted to share with you that we really do have a situation where everything seems impossible until it's done. And the reason I put this in is this is where I came from, the road in front of our home, where most of the children that I went to school with have stayed in that area, and that's their life. And yes, they're happy with it, but I know when I meet them and they see me and they're like, I'm sort of like this queen. I've done something crazy, but it's not that. I really was given the opportunity to think about things from a different perspective. And that road has led me to this red carpet leading up into the Phoenicia altar. And I just wanted to share with you how I have used this mentality or this mindset when I took this on. The owner is Scottish, and during COVID, when we couldn't travel, he said, Robyn, or someone introduced him to me, and he said, look, I've got a hotel in Malta. Can you just go in and take care of it while there's COVID things around, because I don't have a GM. I'm like, I'm not going to be a GM. I'm 60 years old, and I don't want to back. Brian knows it. I'm not going to be going back to be a general manager. And of course, COVID went on and on and on. And I went and I was in this property that had been really let down by people who didn't believe in it and what it could be. The owner had a vision. His vision is to be the best urban luxury hotel in the Mediterranean. He said, Robyn, can you get me there? Can you get us there? And I said, only if you allow me to do it the way I know and the way I've learned. And so as well, the team of that hotel think I'm a bit hooty guru and a bit whiz. I got them into a room and I said, okay, we are happy and grateful that it is the 31st of December, 2024, and we have achieved an EBITDA of, it was some crazy, and they're like, she is definitely on something. If she thinks that we are going to achieve that many million when we're down here, there's no way. And we went through quite a few months of them really thinking that this was really something weird. And now I still have that vision statement. Now we read it out every time we have an employee meeting. And it's the 31st of December, 2024, and we're happy and grateful that we've achieved this, we've done that, we've done this. And we have done so much more than that. And now we have a team of people that really believe in the power of focus and vision, and we're working together to really make what so many people told us was impossible to become possible. And, I'm really proud to be here tonight and to be here with Pierre and someone like Mia who's done so much, but to share with you that you all have so much possibility. You just got to get out of the way of that thinking that's inside of your mind and make a commitment to really move forward. And you can do anything you want. It's not impossible.